Hello everyone, my name is Gothix, and for today's video, I'm going to torture myself by scrolling on LinkedIn's learning platform to take a browse at some of their educational videos that they have for business professionals. Now, if you don't know what LinkedIn is or you never heard about their learning platform, let me explain this. So LinkedIn is a website that a lot of business professionals go to network, post their resume, apply for new jobs, find opportunities, etc. How I discovered this was mid-flight on Alaskan Airlines, and a lot of airline providers have these apps that you can browse to find free movies or TV shows to watch during your travels. So I'm sitting there scrolling, and eventually I hit this section where they partnered with LinkedIn to provide these educational courses for business owners. So I find it comical that the first video that's presented to me is something relating to diversity, inclusion, and equity, otherwise known as DIE. How ironic, because diversity, inclusion, and equity is communist propaganda. So without further ado, I'm going to show you various clips that I reacted to on this platform. I did this over the course of 2 days. So yeah, enjoy the video.
Chances are you know what the words gay, lesbian, and bisexual mean. But what about acronyms like LGBT or LGBTQ+, or even LGBTQIAAP? Let's start by focusing on 4 things that every person on the planet shares, no matter if you are or if you aren't LGBTQ+. First, you were assigned a sex assigned at birth.
No! You were born! You were born! You weren't assigned! The doctor looked at your pee-pee or vagina and he said, that's what it is.
My definition of anti-racism is actually just 5 words. Actively working to eliminate racism.
That's not a thing. You can't get rid of racism. If you believe racism actually exists. I don't. To make it clear, I think that racism is no different than someone saying, I don't like you because you're fat. I don't like you because you're ugly. I don't like you because your opinions are bad. I don't like you because you're black. That's all on the same level to me. We're not talking about actively discriminating and saying you are black and you can't work here. That's something entirely different. But racism, as most people define it, is simply, as I just mentioned, it's just, I don't like you because of whatever.
You have a gender identity, which is your innermost sense of being male, female, or another gender.
Your innermost sense, your gender identity, listen to that, is your innermost sense. My innermost sense tells me that I am a dragon. Sometimes it tells me that I am a little fairy that lives in the forest. Sometimes my innermost sense tells me that I am the most beautiful person on the planet, and I'm also a billionaire, you know, but everyone else just doesn't recognize it. Your innermost sense is something in your head. So why would I care about what is in your head?
They're sometimes called microaggressions because they may seem minor, but over time, the cumulative impact can be huge.
Microaggressions may seem minor, but over time, the impact can be huge. So if something is a minor thing, which is more feasible? Addressing that minor thing and expecting a stranger to not continue acting on that minor thing, or to have you desensitize yourself from being triggered by this minor thing, because just as much as you assume this could eventually lead to a bigger problem, it will inevitably lead to more sensitivity for you. Because what you are conditioning yourself to do is to be easily triggered by things that are very small. And the problem with that is that life is hard. And there are lots of people on this earth that are going to say things that upset you. If not today, maybe tomorrow, maybe a year from now. But you will find that throughout your life, you will always encounter people that say things that you don't like. And I learned to desensitize myself from things that hurt my feelings. This woman is encouraging people to take the easy route and complain about it instead of building that mental discipline, that emotional resilience.
What is your gender identity? Does your gender align with your sex assignment? And if so, chances are you are a cisgender person.
No, chances are I am a reasonably sound, logical individual that doesn't believe in made-up identities.
Individual racism is what we're more likely to think of when we think of racism. It's that individual making comments or decisions based on racially biased points of view. The individual racist may hurl microaggressions, small, seemingly innocuous statements.
You just said it. Small, innocuous statements. Then why do you care? Why call it a microaggression? Just say someone hurt my feelings and call it a day.
Do you hear the phrase LGBT and yawn with apathy? Because let's face it, who cares?
Right. I don't care if you're gay. Can you do the work? That's what I want to know.
What would you do if a drop of water fell onto the device you're using to watch this video right now? If you're like me, you'd wipe it off and keep doing whatever you were doing. Over time, if the drops continued, you'd move the device out of the way before it was, say, submerged underwater. This is because while one drop of water is probably harmless, an accumulation of water would most likely ruin your device. This analogy is essentially how microaggressions in the workplace function. A microaggression is a slight, snub, or insult that communicates hostile, derogatory, or negative messages.
Hold on a second. In the previous video I just watched, they said that microaggressions weren't really that bad.
The individual racist may hurl microaggressions, small, seemingly innocuous statements.
I'm sensing some confliction here. There's some confusion.
More and more employees want to work at companies whose leaders are taking a stand on social issues and doing so authentically.
Those people don't want a job then. When you take on a job role, the objective is to do your job to the best of your ability and take home a paycheck. If you're looking for that company to take a social stance, then perhaps what you're looking for is a side gig in activism, and you can go pursue that. What happens when you join a company as someone who is pro-choice, you pro-abortion, and the head of the company is pro-life, pro-keeping the child? What happens then? You'll probably throw a stink about it. We've seen companies on social media get called out by their employees because they're expecting the employer to take a stance that they want to take. So it's not that employees want a company to take any stance. They want them to take a specific stance, which is tying back into this whole diversity, inclusion, and equity nonsense. This is a political Trojan horse, and it only benefits social and political issues that are on the political left.
Let's begin by taking a deep breath in, closing our eyes, and then imagine an average workday for one of your colleagues, Sarah, a lesbian transgender woman.
Okay.
Sarah is a...
Excuse me? Did you say a lesbian transgender woman? So a guy. So a straight guy.
Sarah said that she's still getting misgendered by most of your colleagues.
Yeah. When you make the decision to transition into the opposite sex, people are going to talk. They're going to remember you as you were. That's just the reality. And that's something you have to put up with for the rest of your life. And this is why, one of the many reasons I say that the solution to gender dysphoria, which by the way is a mental disorder, should not be medically transition into the opposite sex, because it's not diagnosing the mental disorder. It is affirming the mental disorder. If you didn't want to put up with being misgendered, you shouldn't have transitioned in the first place.
She said that the gym is out of the question. She doesn't feel safe in the locker rooms. She said that when she needs to use the restroom, she often travels to a local coffee shop down the street. She's not sure how she'll be treated using the restroom on site. Sarah shares that she's feeling worn down.
Okay, so this imaginary person is using the bathroom across the street and they feel unsafe because they're transitioning and they don't want to go into the men's bathroom. Again, evading personal responsibility. You made that decision to transition. You co-signed on the reality that you are going to open up a can of worms when you do that. If this was a concern for you, you should have thought about that from the get. And this is the problem with all of these trans activists and these diversity educators, is they are willing to co-sign, oh yeah, transition, get your hormones, get your pee-pee chopped off. And they don't talk about what's going to happen and how everyone else is going to perceive you. And if that is a concern, if microaggressions and misgendering is a concern, then you should really think long and hard before medically transitioning.
Sarah mentions that she is actively searching for a new job in the next few weeks. She wants to work with a company that offers full protections for her and her family.
I got you, baby. You know what that job is? Entrepreneurship. Start your own company. And then you can have full control over how your fellow employees treat you, because it will be your own company. The point of getting a job is to earn a paycheck, not for you to expect the company to revolve around your personal decisions.
She says that having a health plan that will allow her to access gender-affirming care, along with a...
Sarah wants a health plan that is going to pay to surgically transition. I wonder, will that health plan also include paying for people to detransition when a few years down the line they realize they made a mistake?
She shares that she needs to feel like she's on a team that embraces her full self and to work with more colleagues like you.
If you were going to embrace your full self, you wouldn't have transitioned in the first place. Your full self is you the way that you were born.
Take a moment to reflect on Sarah's experiences.
I did, and it was nonsense. Next video.
What if I told you that the process of changing an organization's culture starts with a single ripple?
Again, this is all a communist strategy to make the company bend the knee to the demands of the employees.
Learn about the history of LGBTQ+ workplace rights and the ongoing challenge of fighting homophobia and transphobia.
Transphobia is essentially saying that guy is still a guy. Doesn't matter if he puts on a dress, doesn't matter if he takes hormones, he's still a guy. And they're saying that's transphobic, but that's the reality. So this is them sifting out people that fall outside of this ideological nonsense.
Think about the personal actions you can take, starting right now. They could include sharing your pronouns in your email signature.
No, please don't. Yuck. By the way, people that share their pronouns in their bio or their signature, it's an indirect way of signaling you share the same ideology. Whenever I see someone with pronouns in their bio, usually like 9 times out of 10, there's someone that leans on the political left. So it's a way of sort of virtue signaling your allegiance to a specific idea.
Sharing your name and pronouns at the beginning of meetings, or committing to using gender-inclusive language.
Oh, I would love that. I would love if someone introduced themselves to me at the beginning of a meeting and using one of these like neo-pronouns thing. Hi, my name is Frank, he, him, Zer, Octopus, Lord Farquaad, 224. There's so many. And I can't wait for the pronouns to just keep going and going and going. And I'm just sitting there like, is this meeting going to start? Is it starting yet? What's happening?
Asking colleagues about their spouses and partners, rather than assuming they have husbands and wives or boyfriends and girlfriends.
I don't do that anyway because it's none of my business. So regardless if you're gay or not, that's none of my business. Whenever I've worked in corporate America, I went there to work. I didn't go there to make friends. Okay. I don't care about my coworkers' social life or personal life. Don't care about it.
If you bear witness to an LGBTQ+ microaggression, like for example, Carla, do you plan on bringing your husband to the company picnic? You can interrupt the microaggression by sharing, Carla has a wife.
That's a microaggression? Assuming that Carla has a husband is a microaggression? How much do you get paid to say this? No, literally, diversity, inclusion, and equity educators, they get paid a lot of money to say this nonsense.
And separately check in with Carla to see if there are other ways you can support and help repair from any harm caused.
she's harmed by being asked. We can accept Carla as a human being, but it's not required to accept Carla's lifestyle. That's a big difference. So if Carla is harmed by the fact that someone suggested that she had a husband, maybe the problem is that Carla isn't secure in Carla's own life decisions.
Individual and collective experiences of microaggressions and othering is the backlash we face when our differences stand out. Through covering or code switching behaviors, we might find ourselves rewarded, directly and indirectly, with more mentors, sponsors, reputational capital, and better opportunities.
What this person is saying, if you don't know what code switching is, it is your business voice, right? This is an example I'm going to give you. I used to work in a call center, and in fact, the call center I worked at hired someone that would talk like this. You know what I'm saying? Yo, thank you so much for calling. What can I get you, fam? He would talk like that. He lasted 2 weeks before they let him go, and then they hired my now fiance, and that's how we met. Love you, babe. But that is code switching, when you can turn off the hood and turn on, hi, thank you so much for calling. My name is Vanessa, and how can I help you today? That's code switching. That's professionalism. That's what you're supposed to do when you work at a job, because the standard shouldn't be, what up, ma? How can I help you, son? Or, yeah, what do you want? Okay? I have heard people talk like this in various call centers, and they don't know how to turn that off. I know some people in the comments are going to say, but if that's how people talk, that's how they talk, then guess what? You don't want a job bad enough. If the standard is a professional way of talking, a corporate way of talking, that is what it is. If you don't like it, that should be an incentive for you to start your own business. That way, you don't have to worry about code switching. You can just do whatever you want, talk however you want.
As you evaluate your approach to being a stronger LGBTQ+ ally, do you feel like you're making an impact?
Let me explain. Let me just reiterate why this is so divisive. This person is speaking on behalf of all LGBTQIA++ elemental P people, okay? They are speaking in a generalized standpoint. And everything that this person has said, I have heard the opposite argument from people that are a part of this community. So the people that I speak to are not on board with anything that's being said here. So when you say support these people and be a good ally, you're endorsing a certain line of thinking and a certain set of beliefs that are not applicable to that entire community, which is going to create a rift in that community, and it's going to create confusion, because what happens when that employer encounters a trans person who doesn't believe in all of this nonsense, or a gay person that doesn't believe in all this nonsense? What's going to happen? They're not going to know what to say, because they have been led to believe that this is how gay people think. This is how trans people act.
Coming out at work is doubly tricky for transgender professionals, because you're not just cluing people into your identity. You may also be changing names or pronouns. Here's how to navigate that transition effectively. First, plan your announcement strategy. In consultation with your manager, you, or they, might send out a short note to the team announcing your transition.
What is this wig?
Including any changes to your name or pronouns. You might also consider creating a team of ambassadors. These can be trusted friends and colleagues whom you brief more extensively about your transition, and who can help spread the word and answer questions, so you don't have to have the same conversation 30 times. Second, be gracious about mistakes, assuming they're genuine mistakes.
No. Be gracious about the fact that someone isn't going to align with your ideology, and someone isn't going to accept the personal decisions you make that goes against their own personal beliefs. But as long as you're making a decision for you, it really shouldn't matter what other people say or how people misgender you, right? Because that's the whole point. You're transitioning for you.
And the last question, am I acknowledging my privilege and using it for the better?
You mean like the gay and LGBTQ privilege that can complain about microaggressions and expecting the entire company to revolve around them? Is that the type of privilege you're talking about? No? Okay.
Here are the floor layout drawings you needed for the conference.
Cool, thanks.
For sure. Jamie, I've been meaning to ask you, where are you from?
Oh, I'm from London.
No, but I mean, like, where are you from?
Notting Hill, it's a neighborhood in London.
No, I mean, like, where are you really from? Like, are you from China or Korea? Where are you from?
I like how they use the black guy to do the microaggression. Well played. First of all, any logically sound person would know he's trying to ask, what's your nationality? The only time I've had someone ask me where I'm from are usually people that don't speak English very well. Sometimes it could be Cape Verdeans. I'm half Cape Verdean and Puerto Rican. And sometimes people will ask me, where are you from? Because they want to know what island I'm from, because they assume I'm Cape Verdean and I was born there. And so I think the better approach would be to ask, what's your nationality? But I think these people know what the intended question was. That's not a microaggression. That's just a different way of asking a question. And some people don't ask it as polished. I don't think this is something to get hung up on about, because we know what they're intending.
We don't live in a world anymore, if we ever did, where it's your job to laugh at homophobic or transphobic jokes.
Phobic means an irrational fear of something. Go into a comedy club where a black comedian is doing a set and see how many racist jokes they direct at white people. Oh, you probably think that's funny, right? Which I do. I mean, some of the sets are pretty funny. So I'm not going to pick and choose what I find hilarious depending on what is enabling someone's oversensitivity.
Too often, we set racism off to the side and treat it like some alien challenge that we're too afraid to tackle. But using some of your standard problem-solving techniques can work surprisingly well.
I don't think people are too afraid to tackle racism, but racism, as these individuals are describing, is something as simple as someone said a microaggression, someone said a small comment that hurt your feelings without literally bringing race into it. For example, a few years ago, some random person on Twitter commented on one of my videos and they said that I speak very well. And I was like, oh, thank you, because I do think I speak pretty good, right? Out of nowhere, a random black lady, no clue who she is, commented underneath that and said, how dare you? How dare you say that this black woman speaks well? You need to check yourself. That is a microaggression. And I had to chime in because random black lady was going off. And I'm like, you brought race into it. This person didn't bring race into it. There are people, white, black, whatever, that simply do not speak well. That is just a fact. So when you bring race into it, and this is the problem with these microaggressions and speaking about black people as some type of monolith where we all have the same experiences and ills and all that stuff, is you're going to start creating more problems for your own people out of thin air, because most people don't care if someone says a microaggression, because I have things to do. I pick and choose my battles, and I understand intent. Most people are not trying to intentionally be jerks. And even if they were, how does that affect my life? How does that affect my paycheck? I'm there to do a job. I don't care about a microaggression. I'm there to work.
Try featuring the artwork of LGBTQ plus people, including images of LGBTQ plus stakeholders in your buildings, marketing, and recruitment materials.
Why is that important? Can someone explain that to me? Why is that important? Featuring the artwork of LGBT. So if a gay person drew a stick figure, you would feature that because they're gay? Not because the artwork was actually good? What?
Your company can also use its influence to condemn anti-LGBTQ plus legislation that targets young people.
There we go. Do you remember the parental rights education bill, which people called the Don't Say Gay bill? The bill isn't actually named that. But you remember what happened? All these companies started speaking out against this, right? If you actually read the bill, you would see that it has to do about not teaching kids about sexuality and also informing the parent as to what their child is being taught. And a lot of these companies were talking about how this was discriminating against gay people, against the LGBT community. So they want to use companies as a voice to advocate for or against certain political agendas. That is not the purpose of working for a company. The purpose of working for a company is to make money so you can pay your rent. Leave the activism at home.
How about when planning a company-wide event, you extended the invite to your colleagues using words like husbands and wives or boyfriends and girlfriends?
Because there are only two genders. So yes, that seems logical, correct?
For many of us, we are intending to use this language as a sign of respect. Yet when we do so, we are unintentionally causing harm to our LGBTQ plus colleagues.
Absolutely not. No. What is causing harm is this desire to coddle people that are not confident in their own decisions. We have a world filled with people with different types of ideological beliefs, and it is unreasonable to expect the world to walk around your life decisions and be accepting of all of them. If you really want to help someone, you explain that this is the real world and you're always going to encounter people that say things that might hurt your feelings. Your options are to suck it up or cry about it. There is no in between. There is no, I feel like I'm hurt about this, so I want you to change the way that you look at me. I want you to change the way that you speak to me. I want you to change the way that you view my life. That's not going to happen. This concept is preying on people's emotions and their lack of self-assurance, and then using that as a bludgeon to make people comply with a certain ideology. You're enabling their sensitivity instead of pushing them to build emotional resilience or emotional discipline. You need that in life. Otherwise, you're going to crumble every time someone says something that's hurtful. If you're worried about someone misgendering you or giving you a microaggression, when something actually traumatic happens, you are going to crumble.
That's why it's essential to learn about the value of using gender-inclusive language. Embracing this language can make a world of difference for LGBTQ plus people.
No, building emotional resilience would change their world as opposed to expecting everyone to change the way that they speak.
Mindful changes shows a deep sign of awareness and respect. You are also avoiding assumptions that only men and women are in the room.
That's because only men and women would be in the room. Companies, I urge you, don't fall for this nonsense. Every person on the planet came out of a vagina, and all of those babies were made by a penis. We know that there are men and women. If you believe this nonsense, you're doing it because you want to feel like you're virtue signaling and you're a good person. What you're doing is you're enabling a mental disorder. If you're transgender, you have gender dysphoria. Gender dysphoria is a mental disorder. So this guy is saying that there are other genders in the room aside from men and women. What that means is there are other employees in this room that have mental disorders. So let's summarize. He is expecting that companies revolve around the mental disorders of their employees instead of encouraging the employees to take initiative and get their mental disorders treated. You don't treat mental disorders by enabling them and forcing other employees to change their speech.
Rather than saying policeman, congressman, foreman, cameraman, or postman, you can say police officer, congress member, foreperson, camera operator, or postal service worker.
If you're a police officer, which I say that anyway, but if you're a police officer and someone suggests that you are a policeman or a policewoman and you get upset about that, you are not fit to be a police officer. That is one of the most dangerous jobs that you can possibly take on, and you're allowing yourself to be harmed by someone suggesting that you're a policeman or a police. Like, are you...
Have you ever had a situation at work signaling you didn't belong because of who you are? If so, you may have experienced a microaggression.
Oh, shut up. If you, if you feel you don't belong at a company, you would be fired. That's how you know you're getting a subtle indicator that you don't belong. You would be fired. You're there to make money, not there to make friends. And if you're looking for friends at a job, I don't know what to tell you, because most people go to jobs because they need to make money. Okay?
Microaggressions are verbal and nonverbal behavioral or environmental acts of disrespect targeting people perceived to have less power.
One of the purposes that this propaganda serves is to continue victimizing certain people. So then the people that victimize themselves can emotionally manipulate other people into pushing a certain ideology or pushing a certain political agenda. If you say you have less power because you are a part of the LGBT, that, my friends, is a problem with the way that you see yourself. Why do you think you have less power? First of all, if you work for a company, most employees have less power unless you've been promoted to another position that is above the one that you have. So if you think you have less power, what does that say about how you see yourself?
Imagine what it feels like to see your entire team go out to happy hour, and when you ask why Kate wasn't invited, a coworker says, we probably assumed she probably wanted to go to a lesbian bar instead. In each of these instances, someone made a surface level comment or action that either intentionally or unintentionally caused harm that drives exclusion and disengagement.
There is no, stop saying causing harm. Stop it. Are we 5?
The good news is that there is a 4-step approach you can take to interrupt these subtle acts of exclusion. First, make sure you are safe from harm.
Oh, fuck's sake. Safe from harm from what? By suggesting that Kate wanted to go to a lesbian bar? I don't feel safe after they said that. What?
Tackling individual racism is critically important as well.
Yuck.
Finally, internalized racism.
Shut up. Sorry.
The scientists who developed Harvard's implicit association test clearly demonstrate that members of a disadvantaged group often hold biases against their own group. Indeed, the unfortunate truth is that people of any color can hold racially biased views even against their own racial group. So as we examine racism, we must consider all 3 types.
They basically just said that black people can be self-hating. They have an internalized hatred for their own race. As someone who has been referred to as anti-black and accused of having internalized racism, what annoys me is the victimization that black people claim for an entire skin color. Instead of observing their behavior and their environment on an individual basis, we now hire diversity educators to generalize the experiences of all black people. So this is their way of redirecting the criticism from people like me who are saying, stop victimizing yourself. Instead of listening to that criticism on an individual basis, they redirect it and say, oh, you're just suffering from internalized racism. This is the equivalent of calling someone a coon or an Uncle Tom. This is what this is right here.
Today, there are only 4 Black Fortune 500 CEOs. Black families have only 10% of the median net worth that white families have.
Why is that? Why is that? Why are there only 4 CEOs? What was it? What did they say? Why are there only 4 black CEOs at Fortune 500 companies? Why is that? Is it because of systemic racism? Or is it because there aren't enough black people that are pursuing that position? Let's take it a step further. How many of those individuals who are pursuing that position are actually good at what they do? How many of them persevere through these obstacles to achieve that position? If there are only 4 black CEOs, wouldn't it be wiser to ask those CEOs how they got to that position? Wouldn't it be wiser to seek mentorship from people who have achieved those goals as opposed to complaining that this is something systemic?
Black families have only 10% of the median net worth that white families have.
Here's something you will notice with a lot of these woke diversity, inclusion, equity, whatever, these courses, is that they will tell part of the story when they show data. They'll say, hey, look at how many black homes lack generational wealth, or how little black CEOs we have. But they don't paint the whole picture and explain why that is. there's data out to show that Black Americans spend more on visible goods, unnecessary goods, jewelry, clothing, getting their nails done, stuff like that. And they spend less on financial maintenance, building credit, opening up a savings account, stuff like that.
These outcomes aren't an accident, and they're not just the result of discrimination by a few bad actors.
You're right. It's the result of bad decisions. Usually bad decisions. We can also add government dependency on top of that, but mostly bad decisions. It's in the data if you actually read the whole thing.
No, they're primarily a result of long-standing systemic racism that has been baked into the system.
It really annoys me when people just lie like straight to my face. It's so annoying.
Let's say you're working in an organization where Blacks in particular are clearly underrepresented in leadership. That's your problem. Next, ask why. Your analysis and discussion may reveal that a primary driver is the fact that Blacks have been hired for entry-level management positions at a much lower rate than other racial groups. Then you ask why again and find out that a primary driver was the fact that less than 2% of interns were Black over the past decade.
Why is that? If you're hired at a company with little to no experience, you're going to be hired at an entry-level position. That is normal. Are they qualified for a higher position?
Now we've identified a potential root cause that we can specifically address by recommending that internships be paid and broadly advertised with historically Black colleges and universities in particular.
It's not the company's job to say, hey, Black people, we're hiring, come over here and apply. If you want a job, you're going to go out and find it. And if you're concerned that you're going to be hired at an entry-level position and you believe you have the experience to obtain a higher position, you are the product. So sell the product. And if you are not able to make that sale, meaning you don't get the job, you find another company that's willing to take you on. You just keep trying. In any other situation, if you didn't get hired somewhere, that's what you would do. You would pick up where you left off and go find another place to work. And you would keep knocking on the door until someone answers. That's what you do.
Promote diversity in any imagery you might use. Be sure every employee can see someone who looks like them in your organization's communications, displays, and online presence.
Explain to me why that matters. Why does representation matter to you? To me, it doesn't matter. Because the objective of obtaining a job is to pay my rent, it's to pay my bills, it's to put food on the table. If I had to stop and consider, are there any Black people working at this job? I wouldn't get a job. I think that this is a way of conditioning Black people into being obsessed with their skin color, obsessed with something that does not matter. This isn't the civil rights era. We all have our rights. We all have equal opportunity. What is not equal is work ethic, perseverance, your personal drive, the goals, the experience that you have. That's not equal. And that's not something you can fix by putting a bunch of Black faces on a flyer.
Use inclusive language and design events that make everybody feel included and important.
Like what?
Considering something as small as the type of food served to the issues discussed and the speakers selected.
Oh, yeah?
While some of these items...
Hold up. So what type of Black food should be served at the corporate meeting? Oh, I can't wait. Let me know, boo. Anti-racism will always lead to racism. Yo.
Items may seem minor. They are opportunities to either encourage or discourage internalized racism that's all around us. I remember years ago in my 20s, I worked for a Fortune 100 IT company, and our team was going to a team retreat in Florida. Unfortunately, the resort's name included the word plantation. Bruh. Now, as a young Black female, I was pretty horrified at the thought of not just staying somewhere with the name plantation, but financially supporting that business.
So if you guys didn't know, I live in Rhode Island, and Rhode Island changed its name to remove the word plantations in it because randomly, a lot of black people who have been living in Rhode Island for years all of a sudden woke up one day and was miraculously offended by this word. They weren't offended by this word. They wanted to pretend they were offended because the anti-racism shtick is the thing that gets you popularity. It gives you notoriety because you're doing the work. You're not offended by plantations. What does that say about your inner strength? What does that say about your inability to navigate obstacles in this world if a word prevents you from going somewhere?
This doesn't just highlight the importance of enhancing one's sensitivity to these issues, but also
No. We don't need to enhance sensitivity. We don't need a more sensitive society. We need a stronger society. Anti-racism educators want to enable people in their sensitivity to remain sensitive, to remain victims, instead of saying, yeah, plantations, so what? So what? Are you okay? Are you fine? Do you need a safe space? Right? Instead of pushing people, we're saying, oh, don't worry, we'll take care of that. We'll rewrite this entire resort. We'll change the name. We'll work around your sensitivities because the world revolves around your sensitivities.
If there had been just one Black person in that decision-making process, I'm pretty sure they would have immediately realized the potential problem and spared themselves an internal PR disaster.
Yeah, la 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 la. You ain't talking about me, huh? Because I would have told the company, ship it. I'm fine. It's okay. You know why? Because I'm not overly sensitive. Is it a good resort? Is the company sending me there for free? I'm going to be grateful for them doing that instead of complaining that the name hurts my feelings. Ma'am?
Part of the difficulty of surfacing race-related issues is, let's be honest, they're frequently met with defensiveness. That defensiveness can be so toxic because it shifts the focus away from the workplace inequities and towards defending the organization or the individual leaders. One way to resist this shift is to consciously use we language instead of I language.
No. That's the problem. That is the problem with anti-racism, is you're thinking as a collective instead of an individual. They're creating this situation where your problems are my problems and my problems are your problems and my experience is your experience and your microaggression is my microaggression, and because you're offended, I'm also offended. No. No, ma'am.
Your transition is the culmination of a huge amount of hard work and effort to step into your true self.
No. There's no such thing as being transgender and stepping into your true self. Your true self is how you were when you were born. Your true self is you the way you are. Not taking puberty blockers, not taking hormones, not undergoing surgery, not transitioning. That's being someone entirely different.
If we leave microaggressions unaddressed, before you know it, the recipient is feeling frustrated, alienated, and like an unwelcomed member of the work team. This emotional toll would inhibit anyone from performing at their best.
Absolutely not. It doesn't inhibit me. You know why? Because I have the mental fortitude to do my job. And if you're not capable of working at your best because someone said a microaggression to you, which this person is defining as something that's very subtle and not a big deal, if they say a microaggression, you can't do your job, then forfeit your job, because there will be other people waiting in line to do your job because they need to pay their rent. What's that phrase? Only the strongest will survive. All right, my head hurts. That is going to be it for me today. I hope you guys enjoyed this, or maybe you were just crying alongside with me. I was internally screaming as I was watching this. Now, if what you just saw upset you, I can't emphasize the importance of speaking up, using your voice, because now is the time. Share this video with LinkedIn, tag them in it, and ask them, why are you appointing select individuals to speak on behalf of groups of people? Better yet, why are you allowing these individuals to teach divisive concepts without considering how it will affect those in these groups who disagree with the points that you're trying to teach? And if you're someone that's being subjected to this type of education, I recommend sending your employer this video. And if that's too nerve-wracking for you, just state your opinion. State your opinion. As I said, it conflicts with personal beliefs. You don't have to be aggressive. You don't have to be rude. Just ask them very plainly, why are you doing this? We have free speech in this country, so let's keep using it until the government says we can't anymore. And then at that point, I'll probably keep speaking and end up in the gulags. Hey, I want the window seat. That's my seat, all right? But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this. My name is Gothix, and I'll see you next time. Bye! Thanks for watching. If you want to keep my grift going, consider picking up some official merch by visiting nosisnos.com/Gothix or joining my locals community at gothix.locals.com for more content. As always, you can help amplify my message by giving this video a thumbs up and by sharing it online with your friends. Until next time.